welcome to Rising. We've got another great show for you planned today. The Trump cabinet and administration picks are coming in fast and furious, so we're going to have a lot to discuss in the show today.
Good to be with you, Robby, and good to have so much to discuss on this rather chilly day in the nation's capital. Winter is coming.
Finally upon us. Finally upon us.
But let's get started. Robby, what is on your radar?
All right. Well, Trump is staffing up that second administration, and I have some good news, but also some less good news. First, we will start with the good news. Trump has announced that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy will be running a Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE for short. I don't know if you got that, D-O-G-E. Elon loves that little meme, that little dog. In a statement, Trump said this will become potentially the Manhattan Project of our time. I look forward to Elon and Vivek making changes to the federal bureaucracy with an eye on efficiency and at the same time making life better for all Americans. Now, Trump is right, of course, that the federal government is bloated and wasteful. The question is whether yet another government program will actually improve matters. My idea, is to eliminate various departments, not add new ones. Department of Government Efficiency is almost an oxymoron, as Ron Paul once said. But if Elon and Vivek are serious about getting rid of unnecessary federal programs and regulations, well, good for them. By adding Elon and Vivek to his administration, Trump has chosen two people who are committed to the America First agenda in terms of domestic policy. These are solid choices. Now for the less good news. Trump's rumored choice for Secretary of State has baffled many of his allies and supporters who hoped that this time, finally, they would be getting an America First foreign policy in which the U.S. did not needlessly involve itself in world affairs, and in particular, military entanglements. Unfortunately, Trump's choice appears to be Florida Senator Marco Rubio, an ardent neoconservative who has supported every single disastrous foreign intervention undertaken by the Bush administration, the Obama administration, and even the Biden administration. Trump initially seemed to understand that the people backing him this time do not want a return to the Republican Party of old. That's why he smartly announced that Nikki Haley and Mike Pompeo, two Bush-style neoconservatives, would not play a role in the administration. This delighted Trump's non-interventionist national conservative and libertarian fans. Marco Rubio, however, represents a return to form, and an insincere one at that. The truth is that Marco Rubio, while being committed to a hawkish interventionist foreign policy, has experimented with just about every form of conservatism there is. He was vehemently against Trump, calling him a con artist and the, quote, most vulgar person to ever aspire to the presidency, but now he's for Trump. Okay, well, he's in good company there. Basically, every Republican has made that pivot. He's also completely changed his position on immigration. He formerly supported a pathway to citizenship. Now he doesn't. In 2016, Rubio knew that tariffs were bad policy and that they would hurt us just as much as they would hurt China. Today, of course, he wants to expand tariffs. So what does Marco Rubio really believe in? I'm not sure anyone knows for sure. But the only category of policy views he holds and has never flipped on is foreign policy, where he is reflexively hawkish. As former Representative Ron Paul, a non-interventionist libertarian, put it on X, yesterday was a bad day for those who endorse America First in our foreign policy, with reported Trump appointments of neocons like Elise Stefanik, Mike Waltz, and Marco Rubio to be Secretary of State. Many who hoped that Trump 2.0 would be different than Trump 1.0 are feeling dejected and betrayed. Is there any hope left? Now, I give Ron Paul a tremendous amount of credit for continuously calling out the neoconservatives. His son, Senator Rand Paul, also had Rubio's number all the way back in 2015 when he pointed out that Marco Rubio and Hillary Clinton were indistinguishable on foreign policy. Let's watch Paul on CNN back then.
How do you view Hillary Clinton in terms of her foreign policy views?
I see her as a neoconservative. I see her I see her and Rubio as being the same person. They both want a no-fly zone. They both have supported activity in Libya, the war in Libya that toppled Gaddafi, an intervention that made us less safe. They both have supported pouring arms into the Syrian civil war, a mistake that I think allowed ISIS to grow stronger. And they both have supported the Iraq war. So, I mean, what's the difference?
So Hillary Clinton and Marco Rubio are the same person. How do you define a neoconservative?
Somebody a lot of times who believes in big government, both domestically and internationally. And so many of the big neoconservatives came out of a movement. They were Democrats mostly. They were some Marxists and socialists, but they were people who ultimately came to believe that we needed a big government involved internationally as well. So a neoconservative often is a big government person for domestic policy and a big government person for internationalism. And I think actually Hillary Clinton fits the bill probably better than any, but I think she's also the most likely of all the candidates to get us back involved in another war in the Middle East.
Should Donald Trump pick for his Secretary of State a Republican who is functionally the equivalent of Hillary Clinton? Of course not. Voters could not have been more clear that they want the opposite of that. They want a break from more than 2 decades of pointless, costly intervention in the Middle East. They want to de-escalate tensions with Russia and with China. They want the federal government to avoid starting new wars or involving itself in regime change. In fact, the power to declare war properly belongs with Congress rather than the president. Does Marco Rubio understand that? So I have a different candidate in mind. Now, if you watched my interview with Libertarian Party Chair Angela McArdle yesterday on Rising, you'll recall she says that in exchange for Libertarian support, Trump promised to appoint a Libertarian to his administration. Well, there's perhaps no more important role than Secretary of State. It was formerly a stepping stone to the presidency, and the Secretary is the highest-ranking cabinet official in the presidential line of success. So Trump could make good on his promise and reassure voters of his commitment to enact America First by choosing Senator Rand Paul for the position. Just my friendly suggestion. So we're going to be talking about a lot of the other cabinet appointments later on the show in a minute. So let's just stick with the Rubio, Elon, Vivek. I like Elon, Vivek. Again, I don't know that this is the perfect role for them because another department to get rid of unnecessary government departments. Maybe it has to start with itself.
I thought that would warm your libertarian heart.
It does warm it. It warms it on principle.
But it's not really. I mean, I think the question is how they work in practice, because one of my issues with this, and of course we'll get to Marco Rubio in a second, who I've plenty to say about as well, but the thing that I have an issue with, particularly in Musk's case, is he creates this image which is the kind of renegade image, and he's, for the people and all of that. SpaceX, which of course is the space exploration company that he owns, signed in 2021 a $1.8 billion classified contract with essentially the military, a particular wing of the military. So you're giving somebody who has massive business interests with the federal government a role that, even if it's not frankly a real department, is still about dealing with the federal government. And it just seems that whether he, says wild things on X or not, you're giving this guy enormous say over things in which he has a vested financial interest.
Yeah, that's fair. I think we should all be paying a lot of attention to what he's doing vis-a-vis advising the government. We should all be keeping an eye on government contracting to make sure there's not going to be any more subsidies for things that help Elon's businesses. I totally agree with that point. I share that concern. And
with Vivek, I have never been quite persuaded what Vivek Ramaswamy's expertise is supposed to be.
Opposing DEI.
Well,
that's his expertise.
That may be his expertise. His expertise may be getting himself on television a lot and making statements that appeal to the Trump base or whomever he's trying to appeal to at that moment. People often cite the fact that he's a very rich man. That is true, but one of the capstones or origins of his wealth was a slightly questionable story where basically in the area of biotech, he formed a subsidiary, he bought this drug that had already failed numerous times in treatment of Alzheimer's, he hyped it up, there was an IPO for the company, he cashed out and the drug failed and a lot of people were left holding the bag. So I'm not honestly especially impressed by either of those guys. I think Elon Musk has a better business record, but they seem questionable choices to me.
I hope they exercise, there's a ideological battle taking place right now behind the scenes for what the direction of the Trump administration will be. There is the neoconservatives, the national conservatives, the libertarians, the social conservatives, and all of those kind of interest groups are trying to, because Trump is not ideological at all. He doesn't care. He sees someone on TV and goes, oh, they fight, they do a good job, you're hired, here's a cabinet position. It's the more ideological figure. So I'm more on the Vivek Elon's side in what the kinds of policies I want to come out of the Trump administration. But this is why I was so discouraged by the Rubio announcement, because whatever he is, it is not what I am, as far as I can tell.
No, and I think that's true. And I think that one of the things that is a bad trait of Rubio's, but maybe you would take some comfort in, is the fact that he is so changeable ideologically. The only thing that has been consistent about Marco Rubio is that he's disappointed pretty much everybody at some time, right? He came up as this Tea Party guy.
Yeah, I liked that. That version was okay. That version was passable, and he threw that out the door
as soon as he got elected. And then there was the reasonable centrist immigration reform guy. And then there was the anti-Trump 2016 person, and now there's the pro-Trump person. So maybe in a Trump administration, he is ideologically fungible enough to be more to your liking.
Yeah, we will find out, I suppose. There's still time, though, to have a pick more to my liking. Well, that was not the only cabinet announcements yesterday. We have Kristi Noem, we have Pete Hegseth, lots more to talk about on the show. Please keep watching. Thanks very much.